Okay, Keke Palmer, you were a part of the cast of Grease Live. Grease is, of course, a beloved
Oh,
property on the stage and the screen. So were you at all nervous about jumping into this?
I definitely was, for all the reasons that you just said, which is that, it's a very popular musical and movie. And we all wanted to approach it very delicately in that way because we wanted to honor what was there and what people loved about the show. But still, we want people to, feel as if they're getting a new and fresh performance by our generation.
Hmm. So in the role of Marty, how did you bring your own take on the character? Where'd you start?
I think I had to start by first digesting her as a character outside of Grease the musical. At first, I just kept looking at everything as like Grease the musical, and oh, this is how this character is, and that's how that character is. I had to stop looking at my ideas of what I interpreted from the film, and instead approach it how I would approach any new project that I get in my lap. Look at it as the pages as a new pair of sides, and really just think about how you would digest that character and what you would see them as outside of the material or outside of the way you've already seen the material played. And so that's where it started. It started by kind of taking it back to that first level of how you approach a script, and then through that I was able to develop my character and then also find similarities in the original character, because of course the material is the material, but the way in which I express it is my own.
So then what did you see in her? What jumped out in your reading of the script?
It was this youthful immaturity that came off as maturity that I feel that Marty has. It's this idea. She's almost like the little woman, the little kid in this almost like the Susie or the Angelica of the crew when you're thinking of a Rugrats type of scenario. She's the one that has all the answers because she knows how to do her best impression of an adult. And that's kind of like how all of the characters in Grease are. They're kind of like they're little versions of who you were as maybe a kid, and it's exaggerated in the show. And so that's what I felt like the truth of Marty was, which is that she's a young girl that feels as if this is what it means to be a woman, like all of us do when we reach those ages. We're trying to figure out, how do I act now that I'm this age, or who am I supposed to be now? And so Marty's going through that stage of like, I'm supposed to be a woman now, and that's what I am, and this is how they act, and this is what they do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did get a sense of maturity from the character. There's also this sense of this attitude and assertiveness, like a
Yes.
toughness to your character. You give Vanessa Hudgens a real run for her money when it comes to leading the group.
Yes, I did. Now, that was definitely something else that I saw, because in our version of our story, it's not like totally like the movie, and it's not totally like the musical. It's a little bit of a mixture of both. And so in our version of Grease, Marty does have a little bit more of a closeness to Rizzo than most, than the one that maybe we're used to seeing. And that was something that developed in our version of Grease Live. It was a relationship that developed, maybe you could say, through my relationship with Vanessa, and now we also were playing off of each other in the way that we interpreted the material, which is that we interpreted that out of the group. We did feel like maybe Rizzo and Marty, they do have a longer history, or they have like a friendship outside of the group. And these are all the things that you play with as you're starting to develop, and I think that's why it looked the way that it looked.
Mm-hmm. Now, of course, not only is this another version of Grease, this is Grease Live. It's a live production. So
yeah.
Talk about the pressures of that, putting that up.
Well, we only get to do it once. I've had the pleasure of doing theater before, and that's one of the beautiful things about it, which is that you get to do it a million times, and you get to make it better each time. You get to play games with yourself and figure out how you can bring more emotion to this scene and more excitement to this moment and all that stuff. And with Grease, we couldn't do that because we only get to do it one time, and that was exactly one of the most anxious parts about it, is because you just want to make it perfect, but at the same time there is no perfect, so you just got to do your best.
Right. So take us through the rehearsal process then. This is a really unique production in that you see the nuts and bolts of it, in a sense. You see like the backs of the sets, and you see set pieces moving, you see costume changes. Take us through, the process of putting all that together.
I think it's the responsibilities on each and every one. And I think that's the beauty of the crew and the cast that we had on Grease, is that everybody took their responsibility for what they were playing. Nobody was trying to put on a million different other hats everybody was doing what their job was and doing it well. And that's really what it comes down to, because you're right. We had so many different heads and eyes on our set, and it really came down to people knowing what it is they had to do and doing that role. And they did. Everybody did, from the directors to the stage managers to the sound, operators, and everybody. They really were just doing their thing. When it was time for us to show up and to be prepared, we'd hear our speeches in the beginning of the day. We'd hear the run of how the day was going to go, and then we'd all be really professional about it, but yet still have a really good time.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've got a number in this show that is a showstopper, where you're singing to. You're singing to. You're singing in the bedroom, and then you're singing to the USO.
Mm-hmm.
There's a costume change in the middle of that. Talk about that number.
It was very exciting. I remember when I first talked to Thomas about that, and he told me that he was hoping that we could do this kind of USO, big Dreamgirls inspired kind of moment. And I was just like, you hear a lot of things when you're getting ready to do a project, and you never know if it's ever going to turn out the way that, it's said to be. But it really was in this situation. I remember the first time that I actually saw the set, it's when I knew that the people in the production really believed in what it was that I had to offer to the show. And it really touched my heart so much to see what they had created that number into being, with the inspiration of the role that I did on Broadway playing Cinderella. And the actual show of Cinderella I did, she has a big change. And they were kind of piggybacking off of that ability and thought it would be a cool trick to pull out in Grease Live. And I was, of course, down for it because I'm a daredevil. And it was nerve-wracking because I'm like, how am I going to pull this off in the actual live? If something goes wrong, it's not like I can do another show and make it better. So it was very nerve-wracking for that reason. But I rehearsed and did it.
You did, yeah. And it came off pretty seamlessly, too, I have to say.
Thank you.
You're welcome. One of the unique things about this, too, is that you have a live audience in it.
Mm-hmm.
So what does that add to your performance? You're rehearsing it and rehearsing it and rehearsing it, and then all of a sudden you're in front of this audience.
It gives you more energy. I mean, people, we connect to one another and we feed off of each other. And, when you're up on stage or wherever you are performing something, you're exhausting yourself. And so when you have an audience to look out at, or that people are watching in the room, you can see that they're enjoying, even if they're playing extras like we had in the show, we knew that they ultimately were watching the show. It just gives you energy, it gives you something to feed off of. It's a give and a take. I'm performing and you're receiving, and I'm enjoying that you're enjoying.
Mm-hmm. So take us there on the day. I know you guys had a bit of weather issues.
Mm-hmm.
So talk about that. But
we were extremely excited. We were extremely excited about the entire thing. Like, this was the day. But unfortunately, the day didn't start off as exciting. I shouldn't say exciting. It didn't start as I had thought, because the moment that I came in, I remember coming into my dressing room door, and I was like, oh my gosh, talking to my assistant, like, I can't believe it's the day. And I turn around and I see Vanessa poke her head through the door, and she's just like staring at me. And then I'm like, I immediately knew that something had went wrong. And so we went into her room and we just were kind of talking and everything. And, she, told me that her father had passed. And so the day took a complete different turn that we had not anticipated. And literally after we had spoke about it really quickly, we go out and it's time for us to hear the speech of the day. And, I think her whole energy that day gave us even more of a spiritual understanding, or just understanding creatively of what we were going to be doing and what we were going to be offering, in this moment of our hearts, and how this moment only lasts once, and even if you're having other situations that may be in your mind and going on, what you're doing right now also is very special at that same in the same way. And her attitude about it all, I think, made us feel that even more. We felt so empowered by her being so inspirational, and it just gave us another like added thing of feeling fearless. I really think, you know what I mean? I think we all took her fearless attitude with us.
Mm-hmm. So what else was going on that day? I mean,
it was like you said, it was raining, so it was like extremely ridiculous. Like, we had been preparing for the fact that it would be raining. Mark Platt, our producer, he I apparently turned into a weatherologist, if that's a word. So you wanted to make sure that everything was running smoothly. So we had been rehearsing with umbrellas for the past week in case it had rained, and it did rain. And we were wondering if we were going to be able to actually do the first half of our show because there was so much wind going on as well. We were afraid that we weren't going to be able to actually do it safely. And so there was some fear that we weren't going to be able to do it. We ultimately did end up being able to do it. But that was like one of the main things that was scaring us. And then also, you know, just the normal jitters of getting ready to get out there and to perform. I mean, we were like making sure that our makeup was on point, our hair was on point, making sure our wigs didn't fall out, making sure that all of our things that we needed at each set was there, you know, like every area, making sure our phones were nowhere near us.
Well, I heard you guys had to choreograph a real serious plan B because of El Nino, you know, and all of the exterior stuff that you were going to shoot.
Yeah, we did have to have a plan B for if we didn't get a chance to actually shoot that, we were going to have to just skip straight into the, I think it was the lunchroom, not the lunchroom scene, the hallway scene. We're going to have to skip going out. Like I said, that area, it was an area that had so much wind that we weren't going to be able to actually shoot it. And so we were going to have to like literally skip over it. And it would have been terrible because we would have missed out on so much of that Jessie J moment and all that stuff. But luckily it worked out. We had to just put up kind of like a big old black thing. I don't know how they did it, but they kind of like created a umbrella. Like they almost created an umbrella that kind of blocked the wind from us. And that was the only way we were able to do it.
Mm-hmm. So you've really grown up on camera. I mean, I remember 10 years ago seeing you as a little girl in Aquila and the Bee and Barbershop 2, and so you know you've grown up in front of us. What have you learned in the about 10 or 12 years that you've been acting?
That everything goes in waves. You know, that's probably the best. I was gonna say advice, but I don't know why I say advice, but I think that's the best thing I can say to anybody that's an entertainer or anybody wanting anything in life is that everything isn't always going to be great, but you do it because you love it. You know, not every situation was I getting paid a bunch of money. Not every situation were people wanting to interview me and talk to me about that part. Not every situation brought attention or popularity. Sometimes it just brought expression and creativity. And that's what it comes down to for me, is that it's always been about the passion, the creative process, the understanding and the analyzing of characters and understanding of music and conceptualizing ideas and thoughts and dynamics between people. Those are the things that really, really excite me. And that's why I do what I do. And even in times where I wasn't doing what people assumed I should have been doing or where people assumed I should have been, it was always okay. It's always been okay for me. You know, everything comes in waves, but as long as I get to create, I'm happy.
Mm-hmm. You've also gotten some awards attention from this. You've been nominated by the Screen Actors Guild and the Broadcast Film Critics. You've won a couple of NAACP Image Awards, BET Movie Awards. So what does that recognition mean to you on top of all that?
It's very touching. It's just really nice to know that people are seeing what you're doing and putting forth. I mean, it's not even so much as the accolade of the award of it, but it's just the nod, I see what you're putting out there and what you're creating. And, you know, because especially with, you know, not to say one award over the other, but in terms of the SAG award, I remember when my mom first told me what a SAG award was and how you got a SAG nomination. And it's like through your peers to know. So as a kid, to know that my peers were saying I did a good job at something, like that's the coolest part, is that people that you relate to, they're knowing the work that you're putting into.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So Grease Live has aired. It was a hit. Have you gotten a chance to watch it yet?
I have not. I have not watched it all the way through.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that crazy? And I you know, I don't know if I would be able to, because I have to be honest. I'm one of those people that it takes a couple of years before I can watch one of my movies or my roles again until I don't look like that. Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm.
Like unless it's like, I did a movie called Crazy Sexy Cool that was about TLC, and I really love TLC, so I was able to watch it for that fact. But but other than that, it's so hard for me often to watch myself because I'm just like, oh my gosh, Keke.
Well, there are a lot of actors like that, I've heard. Even some journalists. Um, so there's been a big resurgence of all these live productions of
Yes.
great musicals. I mean, I was just talking to people about The Wiz Live. There was
Yeah.
Sound of Music Live, Peter Pan Live, and now, of course, Grease Live. So what do you think the appeal is of these programs for people?
I think people are wanting to bring that type of excitement to television, the type of excitement that you get from the theaters, that you feel when you watch a show. When I watched Hamilton, my heart was exploded. I mean, I cannot, there's nothing like that kind of experience. And I think that people are trying to recreate that on television. And I think through that, they've kind of created a new genre in its own self, which is almost like this film sitcom type of look to it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But I think that's the point. I think that's the point. The fact that we as creative people are inspired by the energy of Broadway or theater, and then try to bring it to television. It should create something new, and it should be something innovative. And I'm glad that they keep pushing the envelope and finding new ways to express that.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, yeah. Well, thank you so much, and congratulations. And it's a real pleasure talking to you.
Oh man, it was really good pleasure talking to you too. You got to say hey to my Snapchat.
Oh, well, hello. Well, thank you again. Yeah.
Thank you so much. Take care.
You too. Have a great day. Thank you.